Okay, everybody, so it's probably going to be the last share in Hilchos Hatmono. Just want to remind the Olam that if anybody wants to send in a dedication to the new book, the Ezra Hashem, which is being worked on very starkly, we're holding mamish at the end. If you want, we need to go a few pages of dedications in the beginning that we need sponsoring to get this Hilchos Shabbos around the world. Send a message, raw@beisdavid.com, right? That's what it is, right? raw@beisdavid.com. Okay, Daniel, you got that? Okay, Gavaldo. Open for anybody. Anybody that's listening, not listening, care, don't care, whatever. Doesn't make a difference. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the Heilige Sugya that we've been speaking about so many times. We're actually going to talk about it, and that is the Sugya of the crock pot. We have mentioned crock pots in various different halachas, namely Shehiyah and Chazorah, because that's what we've been discussing until now. And that is Shehiyah, we talked about the idea of having a crock pot in a way that making sure the food is fully cooked before Shabbos comes in, or at least Kashitas Chananya in the Gemara in Shabbos, as I pass in Shulchan Aruch in Reish and Gimel Siv Aleph, which means it should be at least a third cooked before Shabbos comes in. If not, we're worried Gzeir Shemi Yachata, you may come to stoke the coals. We did say that if you have a blech around the crock pot, and we spoke about this specifically, and we'll say it again now as well, the mistake that I've seen personally, and actually Rabbi Weiss actually told me that he saw the same mistake as well. It looks like many people make this mistake, is that they think a blech in a crock pot is just a little layer of foil on the bottom. That's mamish no shaykhs, because if you open up a crock pot like you do, or like I've done, is that you'll see that the heating element is around the sides, it's not even underneath. So putting a blech on the bottom of the crock pot doesn't do anything whatsoever. You need to put the blech around the entire lining of the silver piece, the metal piece of the crock pot, for it to be considered a blech. Once you have a blech, you're no longer worried about the state of where it's holding and being cooked before Shabbos. I can put it raw, I can put it half, a third, it doesn't make a difference. Because once there's a blech, there's no Gzeira Shemi Yachata anymore, because I've saved the Gzeira by putting a blech. That was the Gabe Hilchos Shehiyah. Now then we went on to Hilchos Chazorah, and we said if I take off the children on Friday night, Keminiga Yeshivas, Keminiga Haibish Yidden, you take off the Friday night, take off the children to have a bissel, and therefore you want to put it back on. Versteht it's fully cooked, and all the milas that we talked about, hot v'chole v'chole. Oh, but the one in the big tanoim is, and the crock pot, it has to be with a blech. It has to be put Chazorah onto a blech, and therefore again, I need the lining in the crock pot to make sure that I have a blech. That was the Gabe Hilchos Shehiyah and the Gabe Hilchos Chazorah. Now, as we're in the middle of Hilchos Hatmono, let's discuss it Legabe Hatmono. So I'm going to read to you the Lashon of the Ramah. And the Ramah comes along, and this is basically where everything begins of the shaila of a crock pot. Again, we are not discussing Shehiyah, we're not discussing Chazorah, we're discussing Hatmono. Zug the Heilige Ramah, okay? Reish no Gimel Siv Aleph. Moedik Ramah. The Ramah says like this: Kol zman shehi megula lamala, if it is revealed, I guess we could translate that pashtas on top, loy mikri hatmana. That's not hatmana. So the shaila basically is, and the Pri Megadim has the suffix in this Ramah, and this is where everything begins of Hilchos Crockpot. When the Ramah says megula lamala is not hatmana, what is the definition of megula lamala? Does it mean, in fact, the Pri Megadim, does it mean lamala, the kisoi, the top, the lid? Is that lamala? Is that megula? Is that basically revealed, exposed, not insulated, and therefore would not be a shaila of hatmana? Or does lamala mean lamala of the sides of the pot? Not just the top of the lid, but the sides of the pot. Lamala, the top end of the pot itself. That's the Pri Megadim at the end of the Siman Reish and Tes. Mishpur Zav, Diva Maskal Hatmana. You look at Abi as a suffix in the Pshat, in the Ramah. So when the Ramah says Megula Lamala is not Hatmana, again, the Pri Megadim isn't sure. Is Megula Lamala just the lid, or is Megula Lamala the actual top of the pot? Now that would be a major nafkamina legabe a crock pot. Because all the crock pots, or most of the crock pots that they sell in Eretz Yisrael for sure, and around the world, that all the metal piece with the element in it goes all the way to the top of the pot, and the lid is on the top of that. So if you learn the Ramah Megula Lamala means the lid, then that's fine, no problem. Why? Because it's Megula Lamala. Right? We'll talk about almost if you cover that. But general case, no problem, there's no Hatmana there. But if you learn Megula Lamala means, like the Pri Megadim as a suffix, the top end of the pot itself, so that's completely sealed, that's completely Hatmoned. It's insulated by the rim over there is not considered to be good enough. It wouldn't be Megula Lamala, no, for sure not. And I'll tell you why. Listen, there's a Lashon of the There's a Taz. Lemaisa, the Taz is machme, and the Taz wants to say Megula Lamala of the Ramah means the pot, not the lid. So according to the Taz, unless you've got a nice amount of the pot exposed, that won't help you. That's called Hatmono, even though the lid is not insulated. According to the Taz, it's going to be a problem. There's a Chayei. The Chayei in Klal Chof, Din Chof base, brings down, he talks about the Indian of coffee, and he says, Lo yatmin kuloi rak chetzoi shlishisoi. He said, the Mishnah Berurah, by the way, brings this Chayei Odom alocha l'maisa and Reish Nun Zayin Sikotten Mem Gimel, even though the Chayei Odom in a different place seems to be says himself, but upon him in a regular case, the Chayei Odom seems to say that unless you've got at least half or a third of the pot revealed, exposed, not insulated, then you've got a problem of Hatmono. So it comes out, we've got a Ramah, we've got a Pimagodim that has a suffix about it, a Taz and a Chayei Odom that Lemaisa or Pashtus being Machmer and saying that I need the actual pot being exposed, the actual sides of the pot and not just the lid, in that case, so it's going to be problematic. However, there's a Shulchan Aruch Harav in the Balatanya. The Shulchan Aruch Harav in Graz, Kuntrus Achon Sikotten Gimel in the Reish Nun Zayin. Look this up, it's beautiful. He brings down, I'm not going to go through the Horayas right now, he brings Agos Motcha, that he wants to say that if the Pi Hakdeira, he says, if the mouth, if the entrance, if the lid of the pot is Megula, and again, having a lid on it is not called Hatmono, by the way, just to make that clear. The fact that there's a lid on your crockpot doesn't mean that's Hatmono. That's just a lid. We're talking about apart from the lid, above the lid, we now have another layer, which is what I have around the cheres, around the ceramic pot of the crockpot. I've got that metal element, right? But on the top, I don't have that. According to the Heilige Shulchan Aruch Harav, she'im piak deira megula av hecha shedoif noisach hamuchusim loy havi Hatmono, and he brings a raya from the Sefer Yosh from the Heilige Rabbeinu Tam that also paskins that way. However, there is a Mishnah Berurah, and the Mishnah Berurah has be'etzem two rayas. I'll just bring you one of them. In Sikot Mem Zayin, he says, and the reason why I'm telling you, by the way, so many Marmakomas, is because the Maisa, this is a subject of a major machlokes, and it's kedai sometimes to know the Marmakomas, to know what you're talking about. The Mishnah Berurah brings Sikot Mem Zayin, Loshen Azoi, Tzorich Lezoy, Shelo Yatmin Akder B'Tanur B'Soicha Gecholim Mikol Tzad, the Mikri Hatmono. So it sounds like, from the Mishnah Berurah, it sounds like the cold side. If all the tzadim, all the way around the sides, when you've got coals going all the way at the top, you're not got coals at the top of the pot. You've got all the sides. That, says the Mishnah Berurah, is considered to be Hatmono. So it could be, and there's other ayahs as well, that the Mishnah Berurah himself was machmeh and held that Hatmono means as long as the sides of the pot are insulated, even if the top is revealed, it is a problem of Hatmono. So Lamaisa, we have Poskim Azoi, it's Nishazoi Poshet. What do we do Alocha Lamaisa? Is our crockpot a problem of Hatmono, or is it not a problem of Hatmono? That's the Shaila. So basically like this, it's a problem, simply because even in the Poskim, it's not 100% clear. I'll give you one example. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman writes in many places, it's in Mincha Shlomo, it's in Mincha Shlomo, it's in Shulchan Shlomo, in the Sefer Shabbos Gehilchasa, it's in other places as well, that Shlomo Zalman be'etzem held that it is a problem of Hatmono. However, the famous story is that many Gedolim, in fact, the Sefer, I spoke to the Bala Machaba, the Sefer Ma'ora Shabbos, Rabbi Yadlik, a Gvaldige Yid, a Gerach Chassid, unbelievable Yid, a massive Talmud Chacham, and he himself went to Rabbi Shlomo Zalman with the Shaila, and the problem was, as I spoke to him, and he told me the story, that this was basically Rabbi Shlomo Zalman's last psak. They went to him, he said something, they went back to him, he was sick, he couldn't speak, and then unfortunately he was nifta. It was very unclear, Lemaisa, what Shlomo Zalman held, because it was basically his last psak on the crockpot, and even that was unsure. I spoke to his son Rabbi Zion Orbach about it. It wasn't clear what Rabbi Shlomo Zalman mamish held. There are steers in his Talmidim with what they heard from him, what he said, what he meant, whatever it is. So let's leave that out of the equation just at this moment of time. Rav Elyashiv Lemaisa has a tshuva in Kovitz Tshuvas, Cheder Gimel Simon Mem Gimel, and others as well, that he wants to say that Avada and Avada, he wants to say that's not what Megula Lamala means, and therefore Avada, when the Ramah says Megula Lamala, he means the pot, he means rayas, and therefore yes, a crockpot is considered to be a shaila of Hatmono in that case over there. A Ravozna also, Ravozna Shevet Halevi, the big mokum to be machmeh to say that our crockpots have a din of Hatmono, and Minute Balt will explain what to do Lamaisa according to those poskim, how I could use it even if Lamaisa you do hold this Hatmono. That being said, said, Reb Moshe, Pashtus is in Chelid Dalet, Simon Ayin Dalet, Hatmono Dalet, it's also brought down in the Dibar Tibom in his son's Sefer, wants to be Mekel, and wants to say no. When the Ramah says Megula Lamala, he means that the top is also insulated. And now since our crock pots are not insulated from the top, therefore there is no problem whatsoever. Chacham Ovadia, right? In brought down Chazoin Ovadia, Chelid Aleph, Omed Samach Dalet, Rav Scheinberg Zatzal. Rav Scheinberg also brought down an Oitzus Shabbos Tovkuf Yud Tes as well, that wants to say, he has a big chiddush of Scheinberg. Listen to his svara why it's not Hatmono. Mamish, a whole different svara to most other Gedolim. He says like this. He says when we learn this Be'ika, when we talk about Hatmono, that the insulator has to be touching the pot. This is brought down from a Rosh already, we're not going to go into the Sugya. But Rav Scheinberg held that since you look at our crock pots, you can move them inside a bit. They're not tight. If they're not tight, the insulation is not mamish touching the pot. Maybe is a mocker to be makel. A huge chiddush because it's such a small amount. But that is not considered to be a problem of Hatmono in that case. Also, in Emek Hatshiva brings down a similar idea. And Lamaisa, I remember when I spoke to Hagoin Rafalk Zatzal, so he also said to me, Be'etzem he held, there's no Hatmono in a crock pot. Oh, well, there's a mokum to be machmeh. He held there was a stark mokum to be machmeh. If you want to be machmeh, then do like we're going to say in a moment. But Akaponim Me'ika Adin, he held there was really no Hatmono in a crock pot. But Akaponim we have over here a huge machloikes hapoiskim. It's a major machloikes hapoiskim. What do we do? Lemaisa. So this is the Eitzah Rabbi Isai, and this is where people get mixed up. And I've heard this from so many people. Okay, we'll tell you the Eitzah. The Eitzah is like this. Since we're saying Hatmono means that it's fully insulated, meaning that the entire pot itself is immersed, is insulated in the heating element, which it is, and Megula Lamala is a suffix in the Pri Megadim, the Taz is Machmeh, the Chai Odom, Shulchan Aruch is Mekel, Mishabur has Mashmos to be Machmeh, whatever. So why don't we just do it in a way that's L'chatchila, according to everybody, which would mean to make sure that the pot that has the food in it is not fully into the actual element that's surrounding it, and therefore do something to raise it up to make sure, number one, that there's a chalik on the top of the actual pot, not just the lid, that's revealed. And number two, there's definitely going to be a space in between the insulator and the actual pot itself, which according to Rav Scheinberg is makel even without that. But over here for sure would be a big space. So how would you do that? Very simple. The easiest way, by the way, is to take an empty tuna can, should not be full, an empty tuna can, turn it upside down or whatever, and then put the crock pot on that. This way you've raised it up, and this way, number one, the crock pot has got revealing from the top, and number two, it's also there's a space in between one and the other. Or you could take aluminum pan, smash it down and put it in, or take foil balls and put a few of them in there. Now again, people make a mistake, and they say I'm allowed to do chazara if I have the foil balls or I've got the tuna can in there, and therefore it's not fully got. That's not true. Chazara will not help you unless it's a blech mamish. A blech means it's completely covered on the inside. According to Moshe, the dials as well should be covered. But al kaponim, that's a blech. We're talking about hatmona. Hatmona means that it's raised up, again, either with foil balls at the bottom or an empty tuna can. This way, when you do that, you put the pot in, it doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. There's a nice amount of it that's revealed. So number one, I've got no problem with hatmona because it's regula lamala according to the Ramah. And number two, there's a space in between the actual insulator and the pot, and therefore you're absolutely okay. Now again, do you have to do that? I don't think you have to do that. I think there's a starker mokim that you don't have to do anything whatsoever, right? But again, if you want to be yaitz to the shitas machmirim that hold as hatmana, that would be what you do. Now, Rabbi Sain, let's mention the problem that people often don't chap, and that is, if we're saying there's no hatmana, pashtus, according to many, in a crock pot, let's leave out raising it, let's say use it normally. And the problem would be, and people do this, is they cover the crock pot with a towel. Now you have a problem with Kulei Alma. There is absolutely no heter on Erev Shabbos to put a towel on the top of your crock pot. And people do this, by the way, because it makes it koch much more, it's much more geshmak. You put a towel on the top, right? So therefore, if you do that, now you've got no heter, because until now you could say, maybe the Ramah means Megula Lamala is the top. Say this, so it's revealed. But the moment you put a towel on the top, no down, and then for sure you got hatmona l'kolei alma. What's that? It's not moist hevel. It's moist hevel, sure it is. By the heat. Adds heat. Yeah, no, it doesn't add heat. Remember, we said that even if the towel doesn't add heat, but if it's on a source of heat, it's kilu or moist hevel, which means it will be us on Erev Shabbos. Good question, right? Doesn't make. What do you mean? That's not. I don't know what Rav Shai would hold in that case over there. Could be he was using it as a tziruf as well as something else. I don't know. But the pashtus is, according to many, if they're learning Gun Lamala means the lid, so then it won't help you. If you cover the lid with a towel or even a container, right? People put things on top of the crock pot to heat up, to keep warm for Shabbos Kodesh. If you put a huge container on it, sits down and flops on, it's covering the ganze lid, or at least over there, you could have a problem of Hatmono, L'kula Alma. By the way, Hatmono, means you can't eat the food. So not that chas v'shalom, just over an issa means like no, but you can't also eat the chulant, right? So not even worse. Not only aveira, but also laivi. A Shabbos without a chulant is I don't know if it's called, is it called a Shabbos? I have no idea. I don't know. Sorry,
moving the towel off before Shabbos, you take the whole time.
Yes, by moving according to the Mekilim. According to those there's no Hatmono in the crock pot. By taking off the towel before you can put it on when you're cooking a little bit, take it off right before Shabbos. You're okay. Oh, then of course you have to raise it up. If you hold the Hatmono in a crock pot, like Rav Elyashiv, for example, then you'd have to raise it up with the balls or with the tuna can to make sure there's no Hatmono.
Plus the towel. When you have the towel.
Right.
So it's Hatmono.
Right.
So now you did that on Shabbos, now it's also the Yamra. When you take it off.
Only when Shabbos came in it was Hatmono. Meaning when Shabbos came in and there was a towel there, that would be Hatmono. And then Pashas will be also to eat.
But if you took it off before Shabbos.
Then it's okay, then no Hatmono was done. Then there was no Hatmono. Lemafrei, there was what Lemafrei? When Shabbos came in, there was no Hatmono situation. You don't have to come and tell Lemafrei on Erev Shabbos and put the towel on. It's not that you were over on Erev Shabbos. You're only over Erev Shabbos when Shabbos came in and there was a towel on. If there's no towel on, there was no over Bechlal. So that's a very, very important thing. However, I always try to bring one in, never managed. If you get the ones in America, America, you see, the Goyim don't understand that they were doing a Gavaldige Chesed to Klal Yisrael when they created this new crock pot, which has the heating element, mamish less than a third or about a third of the actual pot, and the rest of it's revealed. They didn't chat, they were doing that lefi the Ramah, l'kulei alma, that, and maybe not the Sfardim. Chayis is the Sfardim, how they do it, because Mugun Lamala wouldn't help for the Ramah, even at Tolom Mitzvah is also by the Sfardim, Chayis is by the Sfardim. Oh, but the Ashkenazim by the Ramah, the Goyim over there in America made the Gavaldiga crock pot, which has the heating element, only a small amount around the pot, and the rest of it's revealed. That, according to everyone, will be fine, unless obviously you have a towel draping the whole thing, and therefore will be okay. Rabbi said the only other thing that you have to worry about a crock pot is if it's on automatic mode, you have to be very careful that when you put food back in, next you take it out Friday night and you put it back in, automatic means it works by a thermostat. It's almost like an oven, which means it chaps when it's in and when it's out. So when it's out, it doesn't have to work very hard because it's empty. The minute you put the crock pot back in, it's going to have to work hard to keep the heat going. And therefore that may cause the element to go back on or higher, which will be problematic, obviously, on Shabbos Kodesh. So never really leave it on automatic on Shabbos. But the basic idea generally is that we have over here Shehiyah, Chazara, and Hatmono. Shehiyah and Chazara we basically solved by having a blech, which is all the inserted all the way around. We have a blech, and again we have an aluminum foil, and again according to Moshe around the dials. And again, according to Hatmono, if you hold as Hatmono, so then in Achanam you'll have to raise it up. But even if you don't hold Hatmono, you can leave it in the regular way with the blech, there's no problem. And just make sure you don't cover the top. That finishes off the sugya of Shpishal, Shehiyah, Chazara, and Hatmono. The Rebbeinu Shem should give us all siyata d'shmaya. Through the learning of these halachas, we should be able to keep these halachas, and the Rebbeinu Shem should help us, and we should have a greater Shabbos Kodesh. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.